Welcome back, everyone. It's really exciting to be here again to talk about real trading, what I actually do in my own trading account. We're going to be showing that as well, and the ideas and techniques that I use. I also wanted to thank everyone. This will be my last presentation for StockCharts.com. I particularly want to thank Rachel and Zach, because without them, none of this would have ever happened. I don't know how to get this stuff all set up and audio checks and headsets and PowerPoints, and so thanks, a big tip of the hat to both Zach and Rachel for allowing this to take place. And thank you guys and gals for being there. I've had some nice conversation and dialogue with people to watch it. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I have. And with that behind us, let's get to it. I'm going to show you an unknown growth stock with a great seasonal trade. We'll talk about the stock market, gold, bonds, and of course, we'll have our open mic questions. So if you have questions about particular commodity or a stock, let me know. I'll try to answer that in the second part of the show. And we will be giving away a free subscription to my weekly market commentary. So lots of stuff this week. So let's start it. My goal here is to tell you what's going to happen, not what just took place. Now, there's a problem with that, isn't there? Because predicting the future is difficult, but it is possible to a degree. My son is a psychiatrist. And Jason had an interesting comment. We were talking this week, and I thought you might enjoy this cartoon. When a psychiatrist says it's not considered psychobabble, well, it's not. And as Jason and I were talking, Jason asked me a question. Jason's done a lot of work with stock and commodity traders to help them become better traders. And Jason said, Dad, my practice, his main practice during this season, sure reflects a lot of drinking and the problems that arise from that. So he said, what do booze stocks do at this time of the year, Dad? Maybe there's a trade for us here. And I really hadn't thought of that. So I thought, let's look at alcohol stocks, because you would think around holiday times there's a lot more drinking. So you would think maybe before Christmas, stocks, companies that sell alcohol would go up in value. We're going to talk about that, and I'm going to show you the results. First of this alcohol market is a huge market. In 2018, there were $253 billion of booze sold in just America. There was an increase of 5%, a $12.4 billion increase in the market. So it's a huge market. And there's a lot of bubbly. And we're going to break down into different categories. The interesting thing is, well, there was an increase in alcohol sold. The average American is drinking less by about 6 fewer drinks in 2018 than 2019. So how can that happen? If they're drinking less but sales are up, is there something we can learn from that? And there sure is. Let me show that to you. Beer volume has gone down by 2%. That's what's been slipping in the marketplace. Well, wine volume has been up marginally, and distilled spirits have increased by 2.9%. So the bloom seemed to be a bit off the bush of the brewing companies. And that's kind of interesting. Wine's up a little bit, not as much as it's been in the past. Maybe we're starting to plateau. Everybody is so much into wines. One of the best investments I ever made was to buy several bottles of a wine called Screaming Eagle. I bought it about $2,000 a bottle. It went to $6,000 a bottle. And I told my wife, Louisa, I said, well, let's sell it and let's take our profit. And she said, Larry, I've never drunk a $6,000 bottle of wine, so let's drink it. So that was the time I made money but lost money buying wine. So there are 3 big booze stocks. They're Diageo, Constellation brands, and these companies and Brown-Forman, and these companies have been huge companies, and they sell a lot of alcohol throughout the world. So here's an unknown growth stock. Look at that. Another one of these stocks that just doesn't seem to know how to go down. So what is the stock? This stock is Brown and Forman alcohol. That's their booze. They're primarily distilled spirits. Now look at this. When I put it on a daily chart, I noticed that, first of all, we've seen some professional buying has come in here, as it did back here and over here. So I'd expect the stock to rally now. The seasonal pattern, though, is around the first part of January, the middle of January, Brown and Forman has rallied year in and year out. That was kind of interesting. I wonder if that pattern is true of all alcohol stocks. So I next look at Diageo. I live in the Virgin Islands. Diageo brews distills rum here in the Virgin Islands. They're a huge producer of alcohol throughout the world. And look what I discovered here. Also, about the middle of January, Diageo starts to have a nice substantial move to the upside. Oh, that was really interesting. Now, our expectation was around Christmas. My son and I thought we'd see alcohol stocks rally, but there's a bit of that seasonal influence. But the really strong one seems to be coming around the middle of January. So we looked at Constellation. Constellation is the biggest seller of alcohol. And there it is, right around the middle of January. Constellation also has had rallies year in and year out. So that tells me we have a seasonal trading opportunity in the alcohol stocks. So how can we play that? There are a couple of ways you could play it. One, there's the great growth stock, Brown and Forman. That's been such a very strong stock. You could look to position yourself in this market around the middle of January as an opportunity to buy this growth stock. Should have a pullback in there. Even if it doesn't, it rallies at this time of the year, so it's an ideal or optimal time to be buying, taking a position into Brown and Forman. The symbol is BF.A, by the way, on most quote machines. Or you could take the seasonal trade. So I looked at Constellation, since that's the largest one, and I ran my cycle forecast to see what happens with Constellation in terms of the current cycles that it's in. And oops, we'll go back a slide. And what I see, interestingly enough, our cycles say about January 15th, we should expect a cyclical low. And this stock's been pretty cyclical. You can see that we get rallies about every 3 months in this stock, and we've got one coming up now scheduled for about January 15th. So there's more confirmation of the potential trade for intermediate term traders to look for a buy point in Constellation because of the seasonal pattern in alcohol stocks, as well as this stock in particular. By the way, if you like these forecasts, we'll be doing a free 2020 forecast. I do my annual forecast report every year, and on Monday, December 23rd at 1 p.m., we will be doing a free forecast. We will be recorded. I'm going to show you some forecasts of what I expect to take place in 2020 and talk about my forecasting techniques and teach you some stuff about that as well. So look forward to that. Okay, Christmas cheer. Well, the best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear it. Dr. Seuss said that. The Christmas cheer trade then is buy alcohol stocks January 10th, exit May 1st. People like rules. They like rules of life. Don't drive over this speed. Don't drink and drive. Don't do this, do that. So if we need an absolute rule in checking, the best rule timing of this alcohol stock trade would be buying on January 10th and exit on May 1st. Now, as we get into January 10th, you can vary that a little bit. You could look for a trend change. I'll be talking about that today, or any of the entry techniques that you have. But clearly, by May 1st, I want to take my profits and move to the sidelines. Now, Constellation has the most volumes trade, and then Diageo is the second largest volume of the alcohol stocks. Brown and Forman, great growth stock. They've actually all been pretty good growth stocks. Brown and Forman, the best in terms of volume, though, Diageo. And I really like to be stocks that have the biggest volume, more liquidity. I can get in easier, get out easier. And they tend to follow these seasonal patterns better because kind of like the average of numbers, there's so many traders in these markets that the prices average out pretty well. So there's a seasonal trade for you. Well, let's talk about some other potential trades in the market. We talked about Signet. Jewelry stocks usually come down this time of the year. We talked about selling at the lowest low of the last 4 days when we were talking last week. That hadn't happened yet. And now it has taken place. Signet did take out the lowest low of the last 4 days. You can see here in the chart. So what I expect now is a continual drift of this market to the downside, which means since the short-term trend of the market is to downside, I can now look to sell overbought readings in the marketplace. Clearly, we want to have protecting stops, but the play in this market, especially as we get right into the first of the year, as I've shown repeatedly here, jewelry stocks decline after Christmas. So there's a great trading opportunity for us in that market. Retail sales, we talked about that also. There's so many retail stocks, Walmart, Macy's, Target, Foot Locker, Office Max. So it's probably easier to trade the XRT, that's the ETF for the retail stocks. Again, we're looking for the 4-day low to be violated. It hasn't yet, but that's what I would like to see in this market, the violation of a 4-day low. Typically, and most stocks suggest that we're probably close to a peak in the market or that the trend has changed in the market. We're up a little bit in XRT today. It still hasn't made a trend change. I want to talk about that because it's really important not to just trade, but to look at trend changes as we get into the marketplace. That's the art of trading. So here's my key rule for trading. You need to get an idea of what the market will move. I think XRT most likely will move to the downside. Well, we may be wrong. So I don't want to just rush on in here. I need to wait for a sign of trend change. And that's really what I've learned in my almost 60 years of trading. I get a market that's set up. Hey, that's great, but that doesn't mean I just rush in and sell it. I still need a change of trend that says, oh, you're probably right now in your assumption the market will go up, go down, whatever direction you're anticipating. But I need the market to prove to me that I am doing the right thing. So I need that sign of trend change. The market will do that for me. Okay, we're going to have a contest right here, right now. The winner will receive a 2-month free subscription to my weekly market commentary. What is the best-selling brand in the world? Since we've been talking about alcohol and beer a little bit, interesting question. What is the best-selling brand, the largest selling brand of beer in the world? I'm going to give you a real hint on it, a quick one right there, and then we'll go back. I'll even show that one more time. There you go. And get your questions ready. In the second half, I'm going to do my best to answer your questions about individual stocks or futures that you're trading. I'm able to bring up my trading indicators so we can see the accumulation in the market, what professionals are doing, and of course, that seasonal pattern. So the future is really what we focus on, and that's tough because the future is unknown. People fly at Christmas time, so here's another seasonal trade I'd like to point out to you. Looking at American Airlines here, look what happens in American Airlines shortly after Christmas. At the end of the year, prices come down year after year in American Airlines. Now, usually they start to rally up till Christmas. Pretty obvious play, isn't it? People do a lot of flying at Thanksgiving, at Christmas. Investors pick up on that and buy airline stocks until right after the first of the year. And then they start to sell the airline stocks and they come down. So if you're looking for another seasonal influence trade, this would certainly be it. You could look at other airline stocks as well. Now that American Airlines is, I believe, the world's largest carrier, probably better to be trading in this market than the other market, simply because, again, we have liquidity, we have volume in the marketplace. So the next time you're getting aboard a plane to see all that snow, you're wondering about airline stocks, think about next year buying American Airlines or the airline stocks usually around October 1st, and next thing right after the first of the year. That's worked really well for investors for a long time. See, there are patterns to how markets trade based on what actually happens. Not some mysticism thing, but this is what happens. A lot of volume, a lot of people fly at the end of the year, stop flying at the first of the year, and prices reflect that. Okay, we're going to be back in just a few minutes. We'll announce the winner of our contest and get ready for more trades. I want to show you my trades I have on right now, and hopefully you can learn from that as well. So hold on, and we'll be back with more of real-time, real trading. In case you missed it, there's a great seasonal trade in American Airlines or most airline stocks. They usually rally from about the first week of October into the end of the year. And then look what happens starting the new year, down they come. So there's a potential trade set up for you at American Airline or any of the airline stocks you might be interested in. The nice thing would be to find an airline stock that has fundamentals that just suck. Big debt. Look for distribution, look for unbalanced volume to be falling apart at the first of the year. That's going to help you identify your trade. Contest time. So what is the best-selling brand of the beer in the world? What people usually say Anheuser-Busch, but in fact it's snow beer from China. That's a beer most people have never even heard of before unless they've been to Asia. Maybe it's the 4% alcohol content, or it's about $1 a liter, pretty good price for beer. But Snow Beer is the largest brand of selling beer, and it makes sense because there's so many people in China. I believe the second largest brand of beer is in India, which is Kingfisher, another beer very few people have heard of. Now, neither of these beers are great beers, in my opinion. Had them both, been in both countries and drunk. They're okay beers, but it's interesting. People just don't realize how massive that Chinese market is, or the Asian market is for beer. Snow Beer, largest selling beer in the world. As you know, I've gone from bullish to bearish. I started getting bearish in the market about 3 weeks ago, and that's been wrong in terms of the stock market. So I want to talk about how to get from wrong to right. Clearly, I turned bearish too soon. It's not the first time. It won't be the last time that's happened. Anyone can be right, but the skilled trader adapts to his or her errors. So I want to talk about that. If you can't confront your errors, can't confront the fact that you're wrong in the market, you're never going to be successful as a trader. I think mankind is hardwired to be right at all costs. Some people end up being dead right on the freeway or whatever. They have to be dead right, and they are dead. Not in trading. You'll get a margin call you can't meet. So we have to learn to adapt when we're wrong. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. First of all, we think we know what will happen. Still, I don't take action until a market confirms my view, as I talked about earlier, a trend change. So while I was negative on the S&P, I did have one short sell in the S&Ps, and it was stopped out. And as soon as I stopped out, I know I'm wrong here, aren't I? So do I step right back in again? No way. The market just told me, Larry, you're either totally wrong or you're early. And by the way, in my working with trading students, I think that's the number one error we all make, being too early in our trades. It's funny, you think we're afraid of losing money. We're even more afraid of not getting aboard the trade. So we all tend to get in too early. So the key rules for trading: get an idea of what the move will be. That's good. We may be wrong, so wait for a sign of trend change. And you can identify that in a variety of ways. Basically, don't jump with both feet. That's what losing traders do. They, oh, so-and-so says the market's going to down or going to go up, and they just jump in, they buy and sell. Like, well, wait a minute. You better look at the market and see what Mr. Market is telling us here. What is it telling us to do? Is it agreeing with our perspective of the market? Okay, here's real-time real trades. These are my trades, and we have no representations being made that any account will. But they're going to have profits like mine, because these profits could turn into losses also. I'm currently long 30 wheat, 30 gold, 40 Australian dollar, 10 Japanese yen, a couple palladium. On the long side, I'm a short silver, and I'm behind there, $2,500, and I'm natural gas has come back a little bit, I see, so I'm about even now, but I'm long 10 of those. You can see the open profits here, probably about $60,000. These are real times, real trades. So, you know, I go through all the aggravation, losing money, blood, sweat, and tears, if you will. And that's why I'm trying to pass on to you, don't jump in with both feet. Wait until there's a trend change in the market. That's how you become a good trader. And notice I've got on several positions. I don't have all my eggs in one basket. And this basket's got a lot of positions in it right now. So I'm watching this basket quite carefully. You don't need confidence to trade. People say, I don't have enough confidence. No, you need the confidence you can handle the losing trades. You will have losing trades. As you see, I have losing trades. You have to have the confidence, the internal strength that you can handle those losing trades to become a successful trader. Not only the confidence, but that you're going to do it. Most people run away from their losing trades. They hide them to pretend they're not there. They're afraid to put in stops. You can't do that. This is not the hospitality business. This is not about making friends as a trader. You're right or you're wrong, and you got to do the right stuff. If you're in a losing trade, you better have stops in there. You better be watching that trade, or the trade is going to eat your lunch. Okay, so let's talk about the stock market, where again, I've been early on the short side. I'm not short. I do have sales underneath the market today. If the market comes down, which it may or may not do, but if it does, then I'll be short again. But until that happens, I'm just waiting for it. But my internal cycle of the market, it's saying right about in here, we should see, end of the year, we should see a downdraft until about February 5th. I can't change that. That's what it is. If I look at my cycle for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we can rally back up here. It's a couple of weeks ago, but it also suggests down. So I have this vision of the future, right? And we'll all get visions of the future, maybe from cycles, maybe from my forecasts, or maybe from your reading the Wall Street Journal or using StockCharts.com. That's good because it gives you a direction to trade the market in. Then just wait until the market gives you that confirmation of the direction. Here's a very short-term forecast. I do a lot of short-term cycle stuff. It suggests we should rally a little bit. We've already started to do that. This chart was taken from 3 o'clock this morning. And then we start to drift down, and then we'll go right back up again. So that's on a very short-term basis of what I'm expecting in the S&Ps. Okay, let's go from stocks to gold. There's our cycle projection from gold. This was made 4 weeks ago, in November actually, and it suggested we should start to move higher in gold. And the updated, well, we moved a little higher, kind of lackadaisical here, but we're going higher. And my work suggests we should continue moving higher until probably around the 1st of February. So gold bugs, I think we're going to be on the right side of things. As you saw, I'm long, 30 contracts. Hopefully I'm correct in here. And I have stops below the market because I'm not always correct. You won't always be correct. Nobody in this business is always correct. I have known the greatest and best traders that have ever walked on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange or the Chicago Board of Trade. And one thing we all have in common, we've all had losing trades. So stops, but I have a view of the future. So I know that as I get into late January, early February, I want to start to take my profit. I don't know there's a magical point prices will go to for an upside target, but I sure have a time target, don't I? Targets can be either time or price. In this case, I have a nice time target about the 1st of February. Okay, well, let's fire away. If you have any questions about individual markets, just type them in, and Rachel will let me know what those questions are, if there's a stock or a commodity. I don't know that I have answers to all of your questions because I certainly don't have the truth to everything, but I've got some pretty good indicators, and they usually help us quite a bit. So, Rachel, do we have anything?
We do. We have 2 questions. What's your opinion on the British pound?
Okay, let's go take a look at the British pound. I will step in and say I think the Australian dollar is going to rally. I like a short-term trade in the Australian dollar a lot. As you saw, I am long and went long the Australian dollar. In terms of the British pound, I think this market is going to continue coming down probably into about the middle of January. There has been a little professional buying is coming here, but following the Brexit thing, I think we're going to see some consolidation back and forth in here. So I'm not ready to be a buyer here yet. The first part of middle of this January, I'd be more interested in being a buyer of the stock. So for right now, I'm on the sidelines.
Okay, and the second one, what's your opinion on wheat?
On wheat?
Yes, wheat.
Oh my gosh. My opinion on wheat is that wheat is going to rally in here. I hope that's right. I'm long. I think you saw my position there. A lot of wheat. So I think it can go higher. There has been some short-term selling in this marketplace. So that disturbed me. I'm going to bring up my wheat chart and tell you I do have profit targets up here at 577, 576. I've long 30 contracts. I've been long for some time here. So I think in terms of time, this move can go until around the 15th of January. On a short-term trader, if I can get up to that 577 area, I'm going to look to take my profits in there. I do have trailing stops underneath the market, but I think that clearly the trend of this market is the upside. I think it will continue moving higher.
Okay, and not sure if you're familiar with this, but what is your forecast for Home Depot?
Oh, let's take a look at Home Depot. Home Depot has just shown a little bit of professional selling coming into this market. I think we can rally back into the 230 area, and then we might see this market start to sell off a little bit. I'm going to bring up one of my indicators here and see if that's going to help us. Yeah, well. So I would expect it to rally until right at the end of the year and then dip back into February. Around the second week of February, I'd look for this market to try to rally again. But, you know, it did not follow the typical seasonal pattern this year, which is to show strength now. After it showed some weakness, so it's weaker than usual. So I want to be a seller of the short-term rally in here for the pullback in the market.
Okay, and do you have a forecast for semiconductor stocks?
I don't, Rachel, and I don't know an ETF to pull up for that. That's not a sector that I follow, so apologize. Like I said, I can't answer them all. That's a good example of it.
No worries, and that's the end of the questions.
Okay, well, let's go look at another market that's intrigued me quite a bit. Get back to my screen. The bond market. We've been looking at this chart for some time now, looking for bonds to have a rally in here and then move to the downside. We talked about that for a couple of reasons. This is the seasonal pattern, and as you know, what we're saying about the bigger move is down. We expected a rally in this market, but thought the bigger move would be to the downside. And that's pretty much what's taken place. You can see the down move and cycle say we go down a little bit lower as well. And this is what's actually happened. This is right up to date now. So we have seen this down move we've talked about start to happen. And it looks to me like bonds will continue down until about the first week of the new year. Then I think we're going to see bonds rally. Now, here's a really big thing you need to know about the bond market. You guys and gals that like to be short-term traders, I'm going to give you, oops, let me get that off our screen. I'm going to give you a trade in the bond market. It's kind of an interesting trade because bonds have a real strong pattern at Christmas. Most people know that stocks rally around Christmas. They don't know gold usually rallies around Christmas. But what they don't know is that there's an optimal sell in the bond market to sell 2 days prior to the Christmas holiday. In the last 17 years, that trade's been correct 70% of the time, made about $8,000. So there's a pretty good tendency for bonds to decline starting about 4 days out from Christmas. The optimal one is on the third trading day before Christmas. Is a pretty good opportunity to look for sell signals in the bond market on a short-term basis. And of course, it would be remiss of me if I didn't talk a little bit about the S&Ps and what happens at Christmas time. So I'm going to give you some numbers on the S&P at Christmas time as well. This is an old trade. I mean, my gosh, this trade has been written about for a long, long time. What happened at Christmas in the stock market. My friend Art Merrill wrote about it many years ago. Here it is. Grab your pencils, guys and gals. And the $1,500 stop, buy in the opening of the second day prior to the Christmas holiday. In the last 21 years, that's made money 19 times. We'll hold the trade for 2 days. That's a really nice short-term trading opportunity that we have in the market. I'll say make certain you remember our 2020 forecast free webinar we're going to be doing. Go to ireallytrade.com. And again, I want to thank everyone at StockCharts.com for having me this last 13 weeks, and you guys and gals who are watching the program. I hope you've enjoyed as much as I have. And to all of you, I wish you nothing but good luck, good trading, and a very Merry Christmas and prosperous 2020.